evening and welcome to Gravitas. I'm Palki Sharma Upadhyay. Let's get started.
Союзу щодо невідкладного приєднання України за новою.
Санкции, которые сейчас
with blue eyes and
third world nation. Yeah.
The war in Ukraine is in its fifth day. As we speak, talks between Russia and Ukraine are on in Belarus. The United Nations General Assembly is meeting in New York. In fact, the UN has met multiple times in the last few days to try and find a resolution. It has failed. The fighting continues. Today, the second largest city of Ukraine, Kharkiv, came under intense shelling. The people of Ukraine are fighting back. The death toll is rising. The world is still divided on how best to contain this. But the world media seems united in its racist coverage of this war. How could it happen in Europe? To people with blue eyes and blonde hair, to the white, civilized, Christian Europeans. These are not my words. These are words used by reporters and commentators on Western channels. Tonight, we call out their racism. We also tell you about the Indian students caught in the crossfire. The government of India has launched a special initiative to expedite their return home and dispatch senior ministers to Ukraine's neighboring countries to oversee this effort. We'll bring you all the details. It is day 5 of the Russian invasion. Today there were talks in Belarus between Russia and Ukraine. There was also heavy shelling in Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city, with a high concentration of Indian students. Where is this war heading? Vladimir Putin is wielding his nukes, showing no signs of backing down. A fierce battle is underway. Over the weekend, Russian forces blew up an oil terminal in Kiev. This is war. Everything is game. Ukraine is under attack. More than 7 million people have already been displaced, and that's the official estimate. The actual and final numbers could be much higher, and numbers do not even begin to cover human suffering. On Gravitas tonight, as we bring you the updates and the trajectory of this war, we want to show you 5 videos that sum up the last 5 days. Video number 1 is from last week. Ukrainians did not want a war. It was thrust upon them. Look at how a missile flew into an apartment building.
какая жесть.
You must have all seen the aftermath. The death toll is mounting. The United Nations says 102 Ukrainians have died. Kiev is reporting a much higher number. It says 352 people have died so far, including 16 children. Ukrainians have only 2 choices today: find shelter or leave. Their homes are being bombed. Video number 2 is from Kharkiv. Reports say Russia tried to occupy it but failed. The attacks have not stopped, though. Today, Russian forces pounded Kharkiv with rockets. Scores of locals have died. Kiev says this attack happened while talks were on in Belarus. Ukraine wanted an immediate ceasefire and the withdrawal of all Russian forces from their country. No luck with that yet. In fact, Belarus could be helping its friend Russia escalate this conflict. 2 provocations by Belarus have raised tensions. Number 1, President Alexander Lukashenko has allowed Russia to place its nuclear weapons in Belarus, and this is a very dangerous move. From Belarus, Russia can directly target Kiev. Provocation number 2. Belarus can enter the conflict in Ukraine. Reports say the Belarusian paratroopers could be deployed against Ukrainian forces. What is Ukraine's response? The answer to that question is in video number 3. Ukraine is mounting a strong resistance. Let me show you how. This is the Russian Buk missile system. It was on the move in northern Ukraine. The Ukrainian forces spotted it. They sent a drone and completely destroyed the Russian missiles. It's a Buk of... Ukraine says it has inflicted heavy damage on Russians. Its defense ministry claims more than 5,000 Russian soldiers have been killed, 191 Russian tanks, 29 fighter jets, 29 helicopters, more than 800 armored personnel carriers have all been destroyed. But this, remember, is Ukraine's claim. It has not been independently verified. Video number 4 is from southeast Ukraine. It came out yesterday. It shows a civilian spotting a live landmine. He decided to dispose it of himself without any protective gear. The man lifted the landmine with his bare hands and cleared the way for the Ukrainian military.
Охренеть.
Video number 5, and this too is from northern Ukraine. A Russian tank was trying to pass through a residential area. A local stepped up and decided to stop the mighty Russian army. These videos show Kiev's spirit, but spirit alone does not win wars. Today, Ukraine made a demand. It wants a quote-unquote immediate membership of the European Union. Now, this is a process that takes years, but Kiev wants the EU to fast-track it. What is the response from Brussels? The right signals for a change. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said she wants Ukraine in the EU. The bloc is already buying weapons for Ukraine, but how far will it go to stand up to Russia? It's a risky gamble. Europe has an opening, though. Russia may be on the back foot in the conflict right now. And I'll explain why. On Friday last week, the Russians were at the gates of Kiev. 2 days later, they're still stuck there at the gates, but not inside. How did that happen? On paper, the Russian army is far superior. More soldiers, more tanks, more missiles. But wars are not fought on paper. In 2022, they're fought on 2 fronts, on the battlefield and on social media. Russia is not winning either. We can think of 5 reasons why. Number 1, Russia's strategy. Vladimir Putin had 2 options to wage war, a scorched earth assault or a swift and cheap invasion. He opted for the latter. Putin believed he could drive into Kiev and topple Zelensky. But he forgot rule number 1 of modern warfare, establish air supremacy. Russia could not control Ukrainian airspace. The result, multiple Russian planes were downed all over Ukraine. Reason number 2, Putin underestimated Ukrainian resistance. He thought Russia would be welcomed as liberators. Well, that did not happen. The Ukrainian public is putting up an inspirational defense. They're lining up to donate blood. They're signing up to join the army. Putin's invasion has mobilized public opinion in Ukraine, and the verdict is clear. No to Russia. Reason number 3, the professionalism of the Ukrainian army. They did not desert their positions. They did not react with panic. Instead, they planned their defense perfectly. Russia probably did not expect that. They were expecting a repeat of 2014. What they actually got was a well-trained war machine armed to the teeth by Western powers. Let me show you the numbers. In 2019, the US sent military aid worth $427 million to Ukraine. In 2020, $412 million. 2021, $650 million. This aid included cutting-edge weaponry, anti-aircraft missiles, anti-tank artillery. Russia clearly knew all of this, yet they failed to prepare. Reason number 4, the domestic opinion in Russia. Historians often talk about good wars. Now, technically, no war is good. But some wars do have incredible public support. For example, the Second World War or the First Gulf War, 1991. Then you have bad wars. These are supported by governments, not so much by the public. The best example would be the Vietnam War. For Putin, Ukraine is a bad war. And these pictures should tell you why. Thousands of Russian citizens are protesting on the streets. Around 4,000 of them have been arrested so far. You see, this is Vladimir Putin's war. It is not Russia's war. And that limits Putin's ability to escalate. Reason number 5, the logistical failures. This next video should give you a better idea. Take a look.
Сломались, пацаны. Сломались.
Закончил, сорян.
Можно оттащить на Россию обратно. А вы хоть знаете, куда вы едете?
Нет.
Куда?
Я нет.
На Киев, блядь, хуярите. Да.
А что по новостям говорят?
Ну, у вас вот пока.
That's the real stuff. Russian tanks stuck on the road without fuel. And this is not an isolated incident. Russian machinery and logistics have failed in Ukraine. Take their missiles, for instance. The US says Russia has fired 320 missiles until now. 320. Most of them are SRBMs, or short-range ballistic missiles. Some of the launches failed. Some of the strikes were off target. Despite 5 days of war, Russia still does not have air superiority. Does this mean the Russian army is a paper tiger? If so, it should worry India. More than 50% of India's military assets are of Russian or Soviet origin. So New Delhi will be watching this offensive very closely. How effective are Russian weapons? How accurate are their missiles? And it's not happening for the first time. Do you remember the controversy around the MiG-21 jets? Over the years, India bought 872 of them. Out of these, 400 were lost in accidents. Many called it the flying coffin. So this war is a wake-up call, not just for India, but for all countries using Russian hardware. You need to diversify, you need to develop your own weapons. India is working towards that. Now, those are the technical reasons why Russia is stuck. Bad planning, fierce resistance, and lack of domestic support. But Russia is not just failing on the battlefield, it is also failing the narrative war. Look at any social media platform today, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you will see Ukraine dominating the timeline, stories of resistance by the public. Humiliating memes against Russia, jokes on Vladimir Putin. Clearly, Russia's propaganda machine has failed, and one reason is the Western support. Most social media platforms are owned by America. They have systematically removed Russian propaganda. At the same time, Ukraine grew as a rallying hashtag, mostly thanks to this man, Volodymyr Zelensky. He wasn't a television star for no reason. Zelensky hit the streets of Kiev. He dined with his soldiers. He became the marketing tool for Ukrainian resistance. And needless to say, the people loved him. On the other hand, Putin has become public enemy number 1. His economy is bleeding money. The Russian ruble collapsed more than 40%. The central bank has hiked interest rate to 20%. The reserves have been frozen by the United States. The Moscow stock opening today. And put together, Russian oligarchs have lost $126 billion. Each day Putin spends on the battlefield is a loss. Does that mean the West has